and with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and review the well, we're going to focus a little bit on the top 10 picks in the draft, and we'll see how much time we have left. And depending on how much time we have left is going to be dependent on what I do in the next segment, whether I focus entirely on the kid that got drafted by the Lakers, or I focus entirely on the the rest of the picks after the top 10. So this thing with image. All right, so here is your number one pick in the NBA draft. His name is Zachary Risacher. Forgive me if I completely mess up that name. He was selected number 1 overall by the Atlanta Hawks. He is also from France. So the Atlanta Hawks, they decided to copy the Spurs and be like, okay, let's draft someone from France as the number 1 pick. Now, this is the first time in the history of basketball, I believe, that the number 1 pick has been from France in back-to-back years. First time that's ever happened. And I did expect a French player to get drafted number 1 in this draft again. I just didn't expect it was going to be this particular French player. I can't even lie. Victor Wembanyama holds him to a very high regard, according to the draft analysts on draft night. And he is held in pretty high regard on the French team. But in my opinion, my personal opinion, I don't think this was the right pick at number 1. I genuinely think the second pick, Alexander Sarr, is a much better option and a better pick than drafting Zachary Risacher. Again, I'm still trying to learn the last names. Risacher, as opposed to this one. I believe Alex Sarr is a much better pick than the number 1 pick in the draft, because he plays at the center position, which is the position that the Hawks desperately needed. And so essentially, Zach is he's the number 1 pick, but he wasn't really the center. So while he might be I watched his film, and it's I genuinely I don't know, I'm not a big fan of him. It might just be me. I'm genuinely not a big fan. There's somebody in the chat saying, where do you think Bronny James going? All right, to be fair, I don't really think he's going to get drafted. And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, I'm going to talk about that in the 4th segment. So just be sure to stay tuned for that, and I'll go a lot deeper into why I think Bronny isn't going to get drafted. But so as of right now, I think the Hawks, they messed up. I genuinely think they messed up, because this is just this is not it. This is not a good pick, in my opinion. This player right here, I don't really think the Hawks did a good job in picking him. But I would have gone with Sarr, and props to the Wizards for actually trying to go and get Sarr. And honestly, it's that's the that could be considered a steal in the future, because and yes, indeed, Bucks raise bolts. I do agree with you. The Lakers got a steal, and I'm definitely going to talk about that a little bit in the second segment and how I think it's a steal. So, next in the draft, the Rockets, they ended up reclaiming their 3rd overall pick from the Brooklyn Nets, and they ended up selecting Reed Shepherd. Now, Reed Shepherd and his shooting splits are insane. I believe I saw he was shooting 52% from 3 and 54% from the field. His shooting splits are ridiculous. And obviously, this is a league that values shooters. A beautiful league that values shooters. I genuinely, I think that this is great. I think this was a great pick. Honestly, I'm still I'm looking at my notes and I'm looking at my grades. That's why it's a lot of players that I have to go over and a lot of notes that I have to scroll over. And with Houston, with their history of taking a bunch of threes and shooting a bunch of threes and making a bunch of threes, I think this is a pretty good fit. And they are still in the talks of negotiating with some other teams and trades. Maybe they'll get Kevin Durant, who knows. Oh, wait a minute, I didn't completely didn't switch out the picture. This is who he is. Pardon me. Excuse me for that. But yeah, this is Reed Shepherd, and I think I think that's a great pickup. And this draft, it's not really. A lot of people are thinking that this draft is a little bit weak, and a lot of these players aren't going to be really good going into this draft. But I feel like a player that shoots 54% from three is a very, very good pick. And that's honestly, like, I genuinely just hold on just 1 second, looking at my notes and for the rest of the players. And I think drafting him like so high at number 3, I mean, it is incredibly valid, especially with how the Rockets have their offense and their rotations and their substitutions. I thought that center from UConn was going to be drafted a little bit higher. Like, I thought Houston was going to think of drafting him, but then I realized that they already had Sengun, so it didn't really make sense drafting him. Now, the 4th pick in the draft is Stephon Castle, and he is genuinely like I think he was on UConn, right? He won the championship several times. I think he's a very, very good pick as well. He wasn't that good offensively. He's not a very good shooter, but still, very solid pick in the draft. His defense is also great. Pairing him with Victor Wembanyama is also going to be fantastic because he's a great playmaker and he's an unselfish player, teaming around the same age as Victor. That's a great duo right there. And they'll develop. Obviously, I think his shot is going to develop. His defense is going to develop tremendously because he's already a very competent defender, and he has a cool name, Stephon Castle. So next on this list is, I give that an A+, by the way. Oh, so with the drafting, I give the number 1 pick a B. I give the 2nd pick an A+, and the 3rd pick a B+. Now, in this, the next player is Ron Holland II. He played on G League Ignite. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with the G League Ignite, that is a G League team that is responsible for creating a lot of NBA, or recently responsible for creating some really good NBA talent. An example is Jalen Green. He played on Ignite, I believe. And also Kuminga, he was on Ignite. He's also a fantastic player. So the Pistons, they decided to go with Ron Holland II. And I think this is a great pick for the Pistons. Obviously, getting the 5th pick in the draft, that's like, they got robbed yet again, but they took advantage of it, and I think this is a great pick. Now, here we go with the very questionable pick from Charlotte, and that is Tidjane, forgive me if I botched that name, Salon. Now, this is one of the players that I was incredibly unfamiliar with going into this draft. And when I looked at his highlights, when I looked at his stats, when I looked at the clips and everything about him, I don't know why he was drafted so high. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think this was a horrible pick coming in from Charlotte. I give this an F. This is not a good pick. There was one instance where I saw, he decided for some baffling reason to take a half-court shot with 14 seconds left on the shot clock. Now, I don't know what was going on. I don't know why he took that shot. I don't know, maybe that was just a fluky shot. But drafting him so high at number 6, I'm confused. I'm genuinely confused with this one. And it's there's no other words to describe it other than just being confused. He only averaged 9 points on France and was only shooting 32% from 3 and 30-something% from the field. So not very good efficiency and not very good production in the scoring. So why draft him so high at number 6? There is the reason why they drafted him, or the thought and the process and the idea behind drafting him is that he's going to develop into something great. That's the thought process. A lot of people on Twitter are calling him mini Giannis, I guess you could say. And I'm just you can't make that assumption that somebody is just going to be an experimented player and he's going to be the next Giannis. That is a crazy comparison to start with, at least in my opinion, because Giannis is regarded as one of as one of the most dominant players that the NBA has right now. And Shaq, he even compares himself to Giannis. He says, if I was in the league, I would be Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's me right there. Like, you can't make that comparison. Now, the next player, this is going to go way over the time limit, so I'm probably, I have to, because this is just how important the draft is. Now, the next is the UConn center that I mentioned before, Donovan Clingan, and the Blazers ended up picking him. Now, I would give this an A+. Only reason why the only thing that's holding me back from giving it an A+ is the fact that Portland already has a starting center in DeAndre Ayton. So, DeAndre Ayton needs to be, aware that his starting position might be a little bit in jeopardy and things of that nature. And honestly, he's, that's... I think this is a great pickup. And the fact that he wasn't picked up, earlier in the draft is a little bit surprising to me. I would have thought that, Charlotte would have drafted him, and I definitely didn't expect the Blazers to draft him either. So, I give it an A-, only because, they already have a starting center. Now, we have one of my personal favorites, Rob Dillingham. He was drafted by the Spurs. A lot of people, a lot of Spurs fans, they really wanted him on the team. But, ironically, the second he got drafted by the Spurs, immediately gets traded over to Minnesota. So, why did the Spurs trade him? I don't know. I genuinely thought this guard would have been a much better pickup and a much better pairing with Victor Wembanyama than Stephon Castle. Castle is good. Don't get me wrong. Castle is good. But Rob Dillingham is a bucket getter. He can get you buckets. And he's also a great playmaker as well. Pairing him with Victor would have been amazing, in my opinion. Then, in the 9th pick, Zach Edey was drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies. I give that a B-, and I don't really think that Zach Edey is that much of a talent in the NBA. A lot of people compare him to Boban, and that makes a lot of sense considering how slow he is. And he is tall, yes, but unlike Victor Wembanyama, he doesn't have the fast footwork that he has. So, not a big fan of Zach's game, and I'm not entirely sure how that's going to fit well, especially with someone like Ja Morant, a well-known slasher in the NBA. I mean, having Zach Edey in the paint while Ja Morant is, trying to attack the paint, it's just attracting more unwanted attention. That's just me, though. I mean, granted, maybe Ja Morant's just going to jump over them. Who knows? And miss the dunk. But aside from that, next we have Cody Williams. He was drafted by the Utah Jazz, and I give it a good grade. I give it an A. I mean, I'm not really that familiar with Cody Williams' game, and there's not really much that needs to be talked about that. I keep forgetting to just go through these players. There's Zach Edey, I apologize, and then here is Cody Williams. I'm just really focused on just the draft and these players. So I apologize for that as well. And with that is going to be the end of the first segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the second segment where I try to speed run all of the picks that were recently in the NBA draft, as well as talk about who I think is the biggest steal in the draft, this kid named Dalton Knecht that the Lakers got, and Bucks, Rays, and Bolts was talking a little bit about that in the comments. So I'm going to address that right after the short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the